If you could live green, would you? I'm Nick Fedorov, host of Things Green, where we introduce nuggets of green lifestyle from gardening, upcycling, answering your questions, sustainability, even discussing environmental issues. You can become more confident in making the right decisions for you and your family. So come along as we are Things Green. Take a close look at this plant right here. Now, this one right next to it. And finally, how about this popular one right here? They all have something in common. So what do you think those three plants have in common? One of them looks like a cactus. Another one looks like a bunch of sticks or pencils, and the other one is a popular plant that we use during the holidays. Now the thing about it is all three of them are related to each other, even though they look so different from each other. I mean, I raised three sons. They're all different from each other, believe me. And I know they all came from the same place. So with that being said, all of these plants, what they have in common is that they are called euphorbias. And they have a very rich history in the world of plants. Now they're native to Africa, and we're going to be focusing on this one right here in particular. Oh, and by the way, what makes them related to each other, they all have a milky substance. I like to say that they bleed. And this bleeding can be toxic. So you have to be careful around the plant. You definitely don't want to go eating it. In fact, what's really interesting is back in the day when they found out about these plants, there were some doctors that thought that the milk of these would help with digestion and stuff like that. But really what it made it do is that you would ralph all over the place. And don't go eating this stuff, okay? Now, I have to warn you that even the milky substance that comes off of these things, if it gets on your skin, they consider that to be toxic. So you don't want to munch on this plant, you don't want to get it on you. Now, I've trimmed so many of these different plants before. I'm very fortunate because I don't have any skin sensitivity to these. You get me around a juniper though, and I'm going to be busting out in all kinds of hives and all that. So a toxicity is different for every single person, but the bottom line is you have to be careful. Now, one of the problems that we have with this plant is that it is so tightly knit for us to get any kind of branches off of this for propagating factors. So typically what we do is that we have to work from the outside over here. And it's not impossible to handle these by touching the center parts, but I gotta tell you, the protective spines on this, and by the way, this does look like a cactus and it's not. These are all in the Euphorbia family. This, with these protective pines, means that the animals can't get to it and they can't eat it up. Now, remember I said this goes back into the beginning of time? The Grecians actually used to use the milky substance or the sap of this to paste on their boats so that the boats wouldn't leak. Now, whether it was this variety or a different variety, I don't know. But some of these plants, in fact, we have one growing over here that's about 7 feet tall, maybe 8 feet tall. These things can get huge. We know that our poinsettias, if you put them outside of a container into the ground, they'll get up to 15, 20 feet tall. And that pencil plant, same thing. So some of them can grow compact, some of them grow very large. Just all depends on how you're going to be pruning and taking care of them. Because the one that's really tall over here, it's possible for me to take and slice that in half and then to be very strategic in the pruning. Because, I mean, look, I love this. This is like, they're like little individual cacti growing up over here. All right, so how do we deal with this? Well, These little flyers that they throw away on your street and they litter all over the place, you may want to think twice about throwing them away and keep them as part of a little arsenal so when you can handle pokey plants, like anything that is cactus-like. Okay, so what we're going to do over here is that we're going to find a branch, and let's just find this one right here. I don't know what kind of deals we're going to be missing out on I should say, on this week, but I'm not going to worry about it. So you're going to take this, you slice it in between here, and you're going to hold it. And let me tell you, you're going to want to wear gloves regardless of what you do. So you're going to take this like this, and you're going to go all the way down to where there's a nodule or a point down here, and you're going to cut it off. And if you look how this thing is just starting to sap out and bleed. Well, I guess if somebody cut my finger off, I would do that too. But anyway, we got to be kind of careful with this stuff. It's going to get all over. Now, we have to plan this whole process out when it comes to planting, because we're just not going to take and propagate this right away. So what do you say we go into the greenhouse, and I'm going to show you what happens. It still amazes me that all of these euphorbia plants look different, and they kind of bleed differently as well. So you can see this one's a big old mess. The next one, a little bit less, and then the poinsettia, a little bit less than that. So that being said, let's see what we got to do to propagate these things, because they do make beautiful plants. Every single one of them has their own type of beauty. This is not for everybody, I'll tell you that much, because not everybody's going to be digging on these plants. So we'll put this away, and we'll use that for another day. Okay, so I'm going to do something brave over here for the moment. I'm going to pull my gloves off because I want you to see me cry as I start working with these things. Okay, so right when you harvest, you have to remember you got to do something afterwards. I like using vinegar, distilled vinegar. You could use a solution of bleach, but we're going to wet a rag up, and with the vinegar, whew, that's stinky stuff, isn't it? And then we're going to clean our tools, because remember I said that this is like a latex material, and you used to use it to stop the leaks in boats. You're going to have to clean your tools off, okay? In fact, I got some on my jacket just a little bit ago. This thing is green, isn't going to be digging on that. And then, of course, you get it on yourself, you have to be careful. So this is only 5% vinegar. This is not agricultural vinegar, so I don't want you to go thinking that I'm putting some kind of acid on myself. You know, you could use this stuff for multiple things, and being the stuff in the marketplace is only 5%. Well, it's just 5%. It's not that strong. So then what we're going to do is we're going to use some lubricant over here. This is an all-purpose. This stuff is actually kind of neat because it's an eco lubricant, and it's made out of plants. So that's kind of fun. Oh, I love that sound. Okay, we may use them again over here, so I'm not too sure. All right. Just for fun, let's put the gloves on and see where we're at. And by the way, we're going to do something here today that I have never, ever done before. I never showed you before. So this is really important because it's a different style of propagating plants. You would think you would just take something, stick it in the ground, or grow. Well, yeah, you can do that, but this is what we're going to do. First off, we cannot take the one that we just pruned off of the plant and stick it in and propagate it. It really wants to have its end callus up. So we take and we callus it up by just letting it sit for 1, 2, 3, 4 days. It really doesn't matter. Don't go more than a couple of weeks, because then they want to be hydrated, and we're not hydrating them right here. Now this is going to sound so silly, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but I'm going to try to pick this up without getting shish kebabbed. And here's another thing that you got to do. Bring a Sharpie or some kind of marker into the garden. This is going to sound silly, but I need you to put an arrow going up to say that this is the top of the plant as opposed to that. because you don't want to bury this thing upside down. Because look at this. This was cut right here, and this was cut right here. How do you know which is the top and which is the bottom? Well, because I have my arrow going up, I don't have to get confused. This is a very common thing to do to plants. In fact, if you were an epiphylium grower, they actually write the name of the plant in marker on the plant. So you're not doing any kind of graffiti, you're just making it easier on yourself. Get this stuff off of here. Okay, how are we going to start this mess? Process. Okay, so first off, Mrs. Things Green is going to clobber me because I broke her branch. Shh. We won't tell anybody, okay? And then we're going to do a typical planting. Typical planting would be to get a pot, and I pre-cleaned these a couple of days ago. This is just some calcium deposit from the water. These were actually never used before. They were nestled in with each other, and because we kept them in the greenhouse and we do have calcium in the water, it kind of stuck to it. So what I'm going to do here first is show you that you can get a nice, rich, well-draining soil, and I've been getting it by bulk lately, by the way. Really, really nice. Okay, so you get your soil. And of course, I love to use my my rooting hormone. Rooting hormone is really, really good. There's two different types of rooting hormone. There's a powder and there's a liquid. I kind of favor the liquid because it gets all over the place. So what we're going to do is just as simple as you could ever imagine. And we're going to take and I thought that was going to be able to go in here. We're just going to dust this just a little bit on the ends here. Now the reason why we let this callus up because we don't want it to rot in the soil. Poke a hole, put that in like this. The arrow is going up. Yes, making sure that it does. We're done. Take and water it. Now you have to be careful when you're using soil, because when you're using soil, the difficulty is overwatering it and rotting out. So what's the answer to something like that? Well, instead what we do is we use a different medium. And that medium, as it says, this is a world exclusive here for the program because I never have shown you how to do this before. That is by using this stuff right here. It is messy. Okay, this right here is perlite. Perlite is a volcanic-like material. Look at it, I should have been careful. It's coming out of the bottom. Really, really, really should have. Let's do this. I probably should have used something that has smaller holes on it. Can I put this in here? Yeah, let's bust this up. That's right, using a tool what it's not supposed to be used for. So, because I have a broken pottery here, I'm going to line the bottom of this with the pottery so I do not lose any of my, or don't lose as much of it, of my perlite. Perlite is very unique. Unique, me-neek. It's very, very interesting stuff because under a microscope, it's extremely porous. And what it does is that it holds water. The water will get inside of this stuff and it will it'll hold the water and it will hydrate the plant. So I don't want to tip this to show you what I did here, but it is, oops, gotta be careful here, Nick. Let's take this off. I want to cover up all the holes. I'm just using clay. You could use rocks, you could use whatever. Okay, that's almost good enough. You know what would be best right here is that if you could get a piece of screen, put some screen on here. It'd be better than using the pottery, if the truth be known, because the screen will cover it up. The water will go through, but it won't end up, you won't be losing any material. So I'm going to throw that right on top like that. Squish it down just a bit. Okay. Now let's see. All right, so we're going to brave this. We're going to do this with no hands, or just with the hands. Okay, so you know what I want to do? Let's do this one right here. And I did this one intentionally, like this, because it kind of looks like a cactus, doesn't it? It has the 3 different parts coming up. So let's get rid of some of this, and I think we'll prop it up, and then we'll do this. Now, if the, again, truth be known, so look, it's not coming out anymore. Yeah, very little. But anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to put this in just like this after we give it a little bit of a rooting hormone bath. If you want the rooting hormone to stick a little bit more, you could spritz it, dunk it in some water. Be all right. And you put this in deep enough until it stands up. That's all you got to do. Look at this. And we're going to backfill it like this. We know that it's the right size for 2 different reasons. Number 1, I have the arrow. Number 2, it's not cut up here. Okay. Isn't this awesome? Now this will, again, it will make sure that it gets just enough moisture. I could still fertilize it. I could still take care of it like normal. We'll keep it here in the greenhouse until it gets started. And then once it grows roots, then we'll pull it out and we'll put it in soil like this, or put it just in the ground. So with that being said, I think this is a really fun thing to do. You have to be careful because you will get pokies. So wear gloves, use your newspaper to handle stuff. If you're a little bit klutzy like me, you gotta do that. I'm telling you right now. It does get all over the place. The material, the milky, sappy substance, hands down, is considered what we call toxic, because you could break out from it. You don't want to be eating this stuff or anything like that. That goes for any of the plants that are in the Euphorbia family. And with that being said, I got a lot more planting to do over here. This right here is a plant, I really don't discuss that very often. It's called the cast iron plant. Typically you're going to see this in malls, because in a mall setting, in a container, it's a plant that they would switch out and bring back in because there's not a lot of natural light that happens with them. So that being said, if you have a darker-like situation, the cast iron plant gets a really tiny little white flower on it, which we kind of call not horticulturally important, or NHI. But as you can see, you can grow it in the ground and you could also grow it in the pots, but it is really well suited for super dark areas. When they are in a sunny like area or more sun, they'll get sunburned, and all of these plants, they're sunburned. So it's not necessarily the best thing right here for this particular plant right here, but in darker situations, oh, they absolutely love it. What do you say we take a look at some of your emails that's coming through my desk over here all the time, which I greatly appreciate. I'm planning on building 4 3x6 beds that will be 18 inches deep. Well, first off, that's a good size for a planter. 18 inches, well, I think I would only build it that high if it's a problem of reaching down and you've got to be able to get to it a little bit easier. Otherwise, 18 inches for a planter bed is just way too tall. You could put stuff inside it. You could put, say like some bricks, or you could put wood or something like that to raise it up, because you only need about 6 inches of soil in order to grow whatever it is that you're going to be growing. Although I don't know yet because we haven't talked about it. Okay, they will also be 18 inches off of the driveway on a patch of dirt. My question is, I would like to grow sweet baby watermelons. Okay, we're growing watermelons, so I was right about the 6 inches. We're good for doing that. So my question is, I would like to grow sweet baby watermelons in one of the boxes. I realize melons need a lot of space to grow. Oh, don't they ever? And so what I'm thinking about doing here is to create an 8x8 area or larger covered with weed cloth in the driveway. Then with that, put down 3 to 4 inches of straw and let the vines overflow the box and grow on the straw. What are your thoughts? Well, you'd be cutting down the heat, that's for sure, because when those watermelons come down onto that driveway, if it was just bare, you would definitely have a lot of heat that's going on off of that reflective heat, which could be good for sugaring up the watermelons. But at the same time, do you have to do all that? Yeah, I guess I would. That's really kind of a cool thing. And I'm imagining that the reason why you're going to be putting down that straw in the first place is, or I should say the covering of weed fabric, is that you don't want to damage the driveway. Yeah, you'd probably end up staining it. Regardless of what you do, staining is definitely going to be a potential problem over here. So just kind of keep that in mind. But yeah, that's a great idea. Now you also have to remember that I'm a big proponent of making sure that whenever you do something like this, or actually grow melons, it's not a bad idea to take a board and you put a board underneath them so that they don't sit in the dirt if you're growing in dirt. But this case, you're putting on straw. Yeah, I'd still put a board underneath it because you don't want it to rot out on you. All right, let's go to the next one. I'm successfully growing spearmint from cuttings. They were started in water. Within 10 days, there were roots. Hey, good for you. I'll put them in the soil. Let's say I put them in soil, then fertilized. When will I know they are going to be ready for harvest? Okay, here's the thing. There are certain plants and anything that's leafy that we eat, you can take and you could eat them right away. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait until there's a fruit, because there isn't a fruit. You don't have to wait until there's any kind of peppers or tomatoes or anything on it, because there isn't. It's just the leaf itself. So with that being said, you can take and you could plant, you could harvest the second that thing had a couple of roots on it. You'd be okay to harvest those at that particular time. But let the plant get established, and once it gets established, then you can take and you can eat away. And finally here we have, I cut down a Norfolk Island pine several months ago, and I chipped away at it at the hard sap on the stump. But it seems that fresh sap is still coming out. Is this normal for it to bleed sap 4 months later? Okay, so I guess what you're trying to say here is that you cut down the tree. Once you cut down the tree, you're like I said, you're chipping away at it. We got to remember, Norfolk Island pines, they're gigantically huge plants, and they have an active root system, and that active root system is really trying to figure out what happened to the rest of the tree. So when the rest of the tree isn't there any longer, it's going to tell the dormant buds that's underneath the tree or behind the bark at the bottom, and even some of the roots, hey, you better start doing something. And it's going to start pushing out new growth. So the only way to really get rid of all of that tree is to pull the roots and everything out. Otherwise, it'll take you 4,000 or 5,000 years in order for you to take and to actually get that tree down. Otherwise, you're always going to be struggling with those roots and the sprouts and the sap and everything. But yeah, good luck to you. And so if you have any more questions you want to pass along my way, you can call me on my radio show, which is 1-800-405-NICK, or go to my website, and there's a little link there that you can take and you can send me pictures, and you can send me all kinds of stuff and write me a letter, and I actually answer all of your email. Hi, I'm Nick Federoff, and thank you for joining me here on Things Green, where I give you a wealth of information, whether it's gardening, sustainability, we could be talking about construction stuff, we've even been to airports. You just never know where we're going to end up, but I can guarantee you this much, we have information and ideas for you that you can use for your lifestyle, and at the very least, talk about it around the water cooler. That's me with me, Nick Federoff, here on Things Green.